the comp that he had is a player that you have said multiple times on this podcast, Lance.
Yeah, baby Dwight Howard, man. He said it for different reasons, though, just like the strength of the kid. That's what he was saying about Jalen Duren, which I agree with, but I hate the next part of what he was talking about. I hope the Pistons don't stunt his growth. Why did he say that? How many players have the Pistons stunted growth on? And that's like notable. I don't know. I mean, like, are we throwing Stanley Johnson into that conversation? Did the Pistons stunt Sekou? Is that what he's saying as well? I don't get why Paul George did that. It kind of feels like Paul George really wants to play with Jalen Duren, and he's basically just saying, "Hey, man, come over here."
Or he wants to come here.
Yeah, that could be it too. But I don't know but what to say about Paul George's comments on Jalen Duren. So what do you guys think about these comments?
Anthony, you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, I think Reggie Jackson told Paul George how bad Detroit was, and maybe that's why he had that opinion. Because I don't think a lot of people know Reggie Jackson and Paul George are like best friends. Like they work out together. They live in the same house. It's crazy. So maybe that's where Paul George is kind of coming from. But I could kind of understand where he was coming from it, because before he tweeted that, Jalen Duren was not starting. As soon as that video surfaced on the internet, you saw James Wiseman and Jalen Duren starting. I'm not saying, the Pistons saw it, but I mean, the Pistons even made a freaking graphic about it.
Yeah.
So obviously there's some pressure to, have, Jalen Duren as a starting center. I know we talked about it last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, about, who should be the starter, but I could see where he's coming from in terms of just like, you don't want to stunt his growth because there's so many big men. He wants to see him flourish because he was so impressed.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Because I was wondering if did Paul George really mean like because he's not starting right now, that's going to stunt his growth? I mean, I just all thought we were in agreement that we know what Jalen Duren is.
Yep.
He virtually has played the same way as a starter and off the bench. So, I mean, I don't think it really matters to him where he plays or, whether he starts or not. But I didn't think the starting was that big of a deal. But what you're saying with all the big men, that makes sense. But, Mike, what are your thoughts on it?
I think that we are just looking maybe too much into what he said. I think as Pistons fans, we're very reactionary, and because we haven't had the best development with the Oregon. I think with PG, he was just saying, you have a muscular kid, he's 19 years old, and you can't screw that up. He's the guy who played with prime Roy Hibbert. He's the guy who played on a team that had a big man that was really feared in his time, locking guys up. Built the same, not as athletic, but I think what you're saying, Lance, minutes are minutes, and as long as the minutes distribution is good or they're starting in tandem, I'm fine with it. I love that he was able to say that because NBA players don't owe each other anything, and you have to at least recognize a guy's game to be able to say that and echo the organization and the fan sentiments too.
Man, I hope Jalen Duren just reads that and he's like, man, I'm glad that he's proud of me, but what did he mean about stunt my growth? And he just goes off on the Clippers next year. That's what I want to see. That'd just be incredible. I don't think Detroit's going to stunt his growth at all, though. I think Jalen Duren, he's one of those guys, one of those players that no matter what situation you put him into, and I mean, like, he could have been playing for the Clippers back in the day when whoever that old owner was, back in the day, Donald Sterling or something, and still would have thrived on a team like that. I think Jalen Duren is that good, good enough worker. He's just going to find a way to be a star in this league no matter what. So I'm not worried about it. And Paul George, man, just thank you for – just don't say that next time you're talking about one of our guys.